What does technology mean for the automotive sector today, expected by the customers?
Well, and that depends on where they are. But I mean, clearly, the first one is we're moving to electrification. The second one is, as I say, technology around driving aids. So it helps us to be much more safer. I'm not saying autonomous vehicles, because I think they're fully 100% autonomous is a long, long, long way away. But they're looking for that technology. But specifically for Peugeot, they're looking for, as I say, this technology which gives them the pleasure to drive. Going back to the concept inception, we deliberately, of course, this vehicle was our imagination for the direction in 2030 and beyond. And it's an autonomous vehicle, but we actually made it that you could drive it as well, because we still believe that people may want to drive cars as well as sitting back. And obviously sometimes you just want to sit back and watch a video or whatever.
True.
Yeah. So the technology is important. And then, of course, you come to one other part, which is super important for people right now, is sustainability and looking for materials, of course, that are recyclable or cyclable, et cetera, et cetera. So they're around the technology.
Good. Going back to the management, when you arrived at Peugeot, beginning of your job would consist to listen, to observe, to let's say breathe the brain and the team. What's next? And is there for you a Linda Jackson management style afterwards?
Is there a Linda Jackson management? I mean, my style is very open, and as I say, I like teamwork. I think having a team that you can trust is super, super important, and that you can delegate to. So let's just go back to what I did. Well, the first thing is you have to set the direction. And in setting that direction, which was really all about, as I say, how do we attract new customers? How do we ensure that the brand is very sharp? You make that very clear, and you make sure that your product people, your marketing people, your communications people, your design, all understand it and all are buying into that strategy. And then you come to the people. So for me, management style is all about being, I was going to say, have an open door to your office. I haven't got an office. So it's having an open line, if you like.
The door of the car.
The door of the car, or whatever it may be. But for me, it's very, very important that I have a team around me that I can delegate to, that can be responsible, and I give responsibility to. Nobody can do my job and micromanage. You would be dead after a week. Yeah. So you have to really make sure that you've got people working for you and that you are very, very confident in those people, that they can take the responsibility and at times take decisions. Of course, you're the one taking the final decision, but it's a collaborative work, but you have to give people space. That's my way of managing. It's the way I like to be managed myself. In the past, in my career, I've had many managers, and I've been micromanaged or not. So I know that the sort of management that I like to be given the space, and that's what I try to give my people. So each person knows exactly what they need to deliver, what their part of the strategy is, and what they need to deliver. And of course, then it's all about talking and being, as I say the open office, the open door, or whatever you want to call it. It's being available, that you can support people, develop people, and give them that space. But of course, at the same time, you have to give direction.
We can't do much on our own, and we need to build a team, as you say, and know how to delegate. Two of my main challenges, personally speaking, at Ekiden, I'm an entrepreneur too. Can you give me some tips for building this team, and not only on management, but some tips to delegate?
One of the hardest things is to delegate, yeah. And I remember
good to hear.
Yeah, I mean it's a really, really difficult one to delegate. And I remember in my early days of taking on a team and managing people, is that I was very, very bad at delegation, because although I realized I needed to do it, I thought, yeah, but it's going to take me time to explain everything to them. And by the time I've explained it, I could have done it myself. But when you get, and you will find managing your own business and what have you, is that it's impossible to do, because you can't know everything. You can't possibly go into the detail of everything. And if you try to do it, you will miss something. So if you like, it was a lesson that I learned very quickly. And it was difficult for me because, well, maybe difficult for lots of people, because I'm also a perfectionist. So having to delegate and trust somebody to do it at the same time as wanting it to be perfect is actually quite a difficult combination. But it was a sense of having to do it that I didn't have any choice, because I just couldn't possibly manage everything. So I think if you like, the secret to it, to delegation, is A, accept you've got to do it, and B, get the right team around you. And this has got to be a team that you would trust with your life. Yeah?
Okay.
And once you've got that team, and I have to say that whichever position I've moved into as I've moved up, sometimes you have to move people. You know, when you first go in, you've got a team and you look at them and you give them a little time and you see how they settle in. And although some people may be very nice people, they're not exactly linking with you, or they don't link with the rest of the team. Because if you like, you have to have team members as well as very clever people. And, I think people always say, everybody's got an ego, and that's true. And the further you move up the ladder, the bigger your ego is, and it's natural. But what I can't afford in my team is for people to be, I call them divas, which is, they're just living for their own ego. It's got to be teamwork, because that's the only way to move forward. So I think delegation is A, accept it. B, because you can never do it. Decide what you're going to delegate. So you need to prioritize. And then, of course, get the right team around you and have people that you can trust. And I'm very, very lucky. I've got an excellent team, because nobody can be Superman or Superwoman.
Indeed. And don't be afraid of taking decisions that sometimes are not popular.
And this is what is part of developing as a manager and developing as an executive as you move up, is that you have to take, unfortunately, life is like that, and sometimes you have to take unpopular decisions, but they're necessary to move yourself forward. And sometimes you have to make decisions about somebody isn't the right person, and you have to obviously find a nice way to be able to move that person on. But you can't avoid taking sort of difficult decisions. You have to do them, because otherwise your business won't move forward. And I think that is part of how you really need to develop. And so you can't delegate those difficult decisions to somebody else. You have to take them yourself.
That's maybe the sense of your job.
Yes.
And when it comes to the different projects you have to drive, to manage at Peugeot, you are not supposed to know everything by heart, I can imagine. But how do you select your challenges and the projects you have to the areas that you want to invest your attention the most?
Yeah, I mean, that's the difficult one. And this is going a bit back to the question about delegation and how you trust your teams, etc. So we set out, when I first joined Peugeot 2021, we set out what our overall strategy was. And each year we say, okay, what are the things that we want to introduce this year? And what are the things that we've already introduced, and are they doing well? The sort of the famous PDCA, the plan, develop, check, act. And then I sort of say, okay, what are the things that I really want to push? Because some of them will be operational, so they will very much be within the organisation. Because also, perhaps I should mention, within Stellantis, we have an organisation which is not only brands, but we also have regions, and we have what we call functions. So functions are areas like manufacturing, HR, legal, finance, etc., which are really transversal, because we can build Peugeots in the same factory.
Within Stellantis?
Within Stellantis,
okay.
Yeah. So, for example, in the factories, we can build vehicles in the same factory for Peugeot, Opel, Citroën, or whatever it may be. So we have functions. Then we have regions, so America, Europe. We have a regional organisation, and then we have the brands. And my job as a brand CEO is also to interact with the regions, and that because we're both delivering the same things. The regions are delivering on a very operational day-to-day basis, and I'm making sure that they've got the product, the pricing, the marketing, and all of that, and really sort of linking. So we have to work, if we're doing projects, we have to work across the business. But basically, which products do I choose? Well, they're the ones that are really perhaps the ones that are going to need more of a push through the organisation. So that they're normally ones that are not everyday operational ones. They're ones where we want to introduce something completely innovative, something completely new, where I'm going to have to sell it into Stellantis, like the Hypersquare, for example, or a different way of coming to market. So that's how I try and choose them. But to be honest with you, because I'm continually talking to my team, I don't know the detail, but I know exactly where each project is. And of course, we have follow-ups during the month in terms of a dashboard, very easy visual management to understand exactly where each project is. But I would say the ones where I think that I perhaps spend more time are the ones where I know that I'm going to have to push something through because it's quite innovative, or it's maybe not something that we would normally have imagined. For example, project where we had launched some electric vehicles, and we're offering a guarantee for 8 years on these electric vehicles. So it's something that no European manufacturer offers. Then clearly that was completely new for our organisation, and it required me, that's your job as a brand CEO, selling it into the organisation. And that's where I would put some priority on, those sort of projects.